What?
Yeah.
So 8:18, we'll call the meeting to order. Start with the reading of the mission statement. The mission of the County of LCIDA is to stabilize, strengthen, and grow communities through strategic community partnerships, innovative incentive programs, responsible leverage of our financial resources, and thoughtful policy development to advance economic growth and a brighter and more inclusive future for. I don't believe we have any guests for privilege of the floor. Kaylee sent out the minutes from the last meeting and the financials and everything last week. Everyone have a chance to review them? Any changes or edits? Motion to approve. Jerry made a motion to approve. Second by Herb, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Financial report for December.
Okay, we have the expenses for December. Barclay Damon is a voided check, that's why it's up there as a zero. And the 68 for Lewis County Development Corporation is the movement of the fund to the LCIDA. Not with the balance sheet. We are in pilot season, so you're gonna see some numbers up there that really it's just the pass through, so we can ignore those. Also, so we have the CDs set up. Next month we will start to see the interest coming in on that. Anything else good? No. So is any question? That profit and loss is gonna look a little wonky while we're in pilot season, so yeah, just ignore that line, and I don't think there's any change really.
Financials. Motion by Jerry, second by Nancy. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right, item for approval, the budget for the coming year. We had a finance committee meeting a few weeks ago, and just a reminder, our budget has to be submitted to the Paris reporting with the state in the near future, so it forces us to be pretty far ahead of the fiscal year putting that together.
Yeah, just as a high level, since most of the IDA specific work is gonna be in my wheelhouse this year. You do see the Flat Rock Wind admin fee that was spread out over 5 years. That drops off for the 2025-26 fiscal year. If you have any questions on the projected results for this year, it's right then. So we'll see our revenue, or what's been kind of a constant revenue stream, drop off a bit for the IDA. Loan funds being transitioned over to LCDC, we won't see revenue there, not that that was really our money anyway, that was just loan fund revenue that went back into the loan funds. We've established a pretty good revenue stream with our installment sales. You see we've done well on IDA bank account interest for this year because of the way interest rates were. But outside of that, we've got the BRBN equipment, which is a small one. That's deferred through the end of this calendar year, but that'll pick back up with their interest payments and principal payments. But then we've got the Trinity Ave building lease, the equipment, the brewing equipment lease. Those are actually on installment sale. Both of those are installment sale programs now. So you see just the interest recognized as income. And then Snow Ridge, their first rumor that we financed for them a couple years ago. And then the second one that we'll be signing any day. You see the interest coming in for those. So that creates a decent revenue stream. It's a It's been a great way to earn more than the bank has paid us in interest. And I think if we see interest rates come down on class, that as long as those don't default, which is always the risk, because those are the more risky situations. They're great ways to invest our money and be in the community. We do have that new line, that naturally Lewis staff service contract adjustment. That's what we expect that the auditors will come back to us with. Still waiting on that, but we budgeted for it. Maybe by the time this budget takes it, they will get back to us. Any questions on operating revenue? Okay, the only non-operating revenue we're looking at is we've got the NY class and classified down there under investment earnings. Like I said, we saw a great year this fiscal year. Projecting about $50,000 in interest from that. We brought it down a fair amount because we've diversified a little bit by putting things in CDs in anticipation of interest rates coming down. Do you want to go down to expenditures? Notables there, the Naturally Lewis staff service contract for this fiscal year that we're in, that middle row, that 206, was less than projected just because of the way the fiscal year lines up with the calendar year that Naturally Lewis's fiscal year is on. So that got a little goofy for this fiscal year that we're in, but that'll even itself out in next year. And then under other expenditures, we do have a couple miscellaneous type expenditures. The bulk of the expenditures for the IDA sit in property and site development, which we've got at 100,000, consultants and contracted project management related to those things. And then as we scroll down, you can see that we have budgeted for a pretty decent capital outlay for those projects. So property and site developments, that budget is mostly for the R&D work, the pre-development kind of stuff that's going to lead up to possible purchases of property, or just investment in things that we need to do to position ourselves to be involved in the property and site development growth. The capital asset outlay, that's $50,000 towards the Harrisville Bank building. $90,000 we've got budgeted for the Naturally Lewis office building, which that'll be a negotiable number. And $500,000 we've got budgeted for Commerce Work Plan. It's budgeted, it's there already, we have the money, whether we spend it or not is up to this board's discretion. And then we threw in some money for maintenance on those own properties. Any questions from board? We are projecting obviously a very big loss, but most of that is in capital expenditures, and those are funds that are sitting in the bank. So those are more investment than expenditure.
Relating to the consultants and contracted project management, because IDA is not, they don't pay for staff anymore. I do foresee us coming to the IDA to pay for consultants as it relates to projects or economic development initiatives. Because we don't have that budget and didn't have the Lewis budget. We've already had conversations with Camoin about this Attract What We Want plan, which was a key priority in our new strategy. And we are starting to embark in conversations with various engineers, people who might be able to take on that contracted project management role. Since we've had the finance committee meeting, I'm gonna ask the board to consider bumping up that consultant line to 100,000, because we've identified a need. Well, not need. We are focused on business financial literacy for businesses and organizations in the future. This is something that we've seen just over the past couple of years. Businesses need someone to do a deep dive into their financials and provide like strategic recommendations on how to move forward, so that they don't get into these situations where it takes a year for them to make their first payment to the IDA, or they're just at bottom of the deep dark hole and can't call themselves out. So we've talked internally about finding a consulting or a firm or a person who we could have on a retainer, and as the need comes for businesses and organizations, nonprofits are in there as well. They would have access to this person. So, something that we're still talking through, but I do wanna ask that the IDA board consider bumping that line up to 100,000.
Can we leverage more of the SBA? SBA?
The SBDC?
Yeah, that.
Yes, yes. However, they are not only focused on Lewis County, so we do send all of our entrepreneurs and small businesses to the SBDC to start. This is more of like a more intense deep dive into financials.
Is this for obviously after they start their business?
Yes,
So.
SBDC comes in as they're getting set up.
Right, so when I started mine, I went through them and they
Yeah.
did projections for me, which
Yeah.
was great. But yeah, once you start your business, I mean, there's a lot of flags that, and so
yeah,
I'd be in favor of that. I think that's a great service.
yeah, and this is, I mean. Like I said, this has been a need that has came up over the past couple of years, but Trish was really like the one who kind of identified like. These people just need more intensified assistance, and like someone to just sit down with them and not just look at their books. This isn't just an accountant looking through their books, it's like strategic visioning of like, this is where you wanna be, here are the steps you need to take to get there.
And any example help things? This consultant that you consulted with for the last couple of months.
I mean, he's being mentored by,
Mary Jean Remington,
it was Mary Jean.
yeah, the testing, she's the owner.
That was kind of set up through that course, that business course we did.
He's had a lot of consultants, I guess, over the years, and I don't know, some may have been good, some may have steered in the wrong direction. So that's just something that has come up recently of how we can tackle that specific initiative.
For the sake of budgeting, I'm certainly in favor of making sure there's enough money there to explore that. And could have some more conversations about
Yeah,
what that looks like and what our role is.
Where would we pull that shit $50,000 from?
say that again.
So we wanna take it from 50,000 and add another 50, right? So
Yeah.
where with that?
So this budget looks horrible, right? Because we are not, we don't have a lot of revenue coming, because some of our big pilots are coming down. So this would be essentially just taking from our reserve.
Yeah.
To pay for that.
Which we haven't. Met or we haven't used all of our property and development budget over the past couple of years, if you go back and pull the numbers, but because we haven't been doing a big project. So yeah, it would come out of reserves, but it's reserves that are there.
How do you plan to sustain that? If the budget looks bad, then we're borrowing from another fund bucket. How do we get to sustain that 100,000?
What would be the return on the money?
Zero.
But can we gauge that, so are there businesses failing that we've helped, or are there businesses failing in Lewis County because they don't understand their financials and they don't understand those things, so we're able to help them. I mean, do we eventually that grows and less failure means more
Business
taxes, more business development,
Or
more
use of
success.
incentives. So if we can help a PRBN really get out of the path, he will come back for incentives when he needs to stay. And IDA is only as sustainable as the businesses that are invested in finance.
I think that's. I mean. you know, we've I think we've taken a good path in terms of the decisions made on where money goes and stuff, but at the same time, there's legitimate concern that it's not, we're not here to sustain ourselves, we're not here to keep money in the bank, we're here to help businesses. I mean, that's fairly, I mean, obviously the reality is in a few years, yeah, there's gotta be other mechanisms for, well, some of this, right, but that's where having let's be one part of naturally Lewis is that over time, you know, it shifts, and our responsibility to naturally Lewis could shift based on what other revenue sources they have and what projects we have going on through the IDA. And you know, like we were just talking about, kind of gotta build it, and they will come type of thing. Like if we have those programs, you know, we've had this kind of boon of money from renewable energy that we knew wouldn't last forever, but it's about setting ourselves up for it's the same message we give municipalities, right? Don't sit on this, don't squander this renewable energy money because, and waste it on tax stuff. Use it strategically to grow, and that's what we need to do as well.
Right, and we can find ways, like our community economic development program under the LCDC right now. Has, it's at capacity for the amount of programming doing that. But as we have these pipeline huge projects staring us in the face, as that money gets added to that pot, we could flush out the program under that header.
Yeah.
And fund it that way, because that's helping more, it's helping probably at least 5 businesses a year, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a legitimate place for that flip as well.
Part of it to me comes back to, you know, programs versus projects. I mean, projects and, you know, investments in businesses, the buying, you know, the leases, the ownership of property where we're getting rent and stuff, that's right, that's that kind of consistent income. That's projects, programs is, in my personal opinion, our responsibility to invest in the community, that the return is through the benefits to the community. It's not a yeah, dollar for dollar return on like a building. This is as economic development, this is what we're here to do. And if we're sitting on our money, we're not helping.
It's in our main development mentions.
We're not helping, you know.
Can we use our interest off our unit class?
Yeah.
Well, we can show you from that. Other than. Well, sure. Use the interest from the unit class.
Right, because it's not, we haven't earmarked that or anything, it just go, right, we could either draw it out of that fund or. Recognize that we are earning that amount of interest.
One of the reasons to now this year and come with metrics to measure how it's impacting things. I mean, I know that we're actually getting payments now from second police bureau because that's what they were. And then we've got the RDM in the same situation, so I feel like it's actually getting back into us in a weird way, and it will do the same for the community. So figuring out how to really measure that, and then figure out at the end of the year whether it's something to or not based on actual.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, that create a metric to see how successful it is, and how much would impact it.
That modification, does anybody, actually, we should go through the 3-year tab. So this is just, we have to project out 3 years when we put the numbers in Paris. So. We don't do a real deep dive on the next 3 years, besides knowing that the number 3 wind pilot will have 1 more year on it after this year, the admin fees coming in. Like I said, there's a couple other ones in the pipeline that would be rather large, it would be great to land. But everything else in there is pretty much maintaining status quo. You scroll down, you can see the whole thing. Yes, bottom line, total expenditures drop after this year and still projecting negatives, so that's something that we will need to start to see that return, we need to start to see big pilot admin fees coming in. In order to keep investing on the property and site development side as we are this year. So that's something that we'll have to keep track of, and we do our deep dive every year, really look at that, are we seeing return and what's it look like? But for now, I just project out being very conservative. You're looking for a motion to approve that budget, what's the benefit in February?
So
Jerry. Second. I'm just gonna comment. Metrics then. Cause I don't want that. I mean, we can look at, you know, how like it's great to track it with we invest that money on what the you know, what businesses we help. But you know, when like the right metrics aren't gonna be a direct financial return to us. And they're also not gonna be measured in 12 months. So it's really like, if we invest this money in the 2025, 26 budget year, it's gonna be 2 or 3 years where I feel like we could truly actually say how it worked, so.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
No,
Making sure we don't run ourselves out of it.
No, it's a fair point of how we use our, you know. Being strategic about how we use our money going forward, but just. You know, we have to be careful of like what we put around it to deem something a success or a failure.
Everyone's metrics are different.
But anyways, we had a motion in a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Alright, motion carries. Budget approved. So is there anything else that we need to approve? That's also probably.
Related to the other again. Oh, I see. Yeah. So you got farm. Oh, I was like, what's going on?
No, Joe is letting you.
Oh, well, there you go, now we'll be good.
Alright, yeah, I have to leave in a few minutes, but now Jess is here, we'll be good to reform, so. Now keep going with the updates.
Yeah, I provided our IDA board report for January. We're gonna be talking about some recent further in the agenda, but if anyone have any questions. Again, we haven't heard anything from the council yet. Makes me question their efficiency. But others.
Any questions for Brittany or anything specific things you wanted to highlight?
I'd like to say, great job on the AES solar meeting. I thought that was great. Everyone had a lot more knowledge, and I think, you know, getting ahead of that, getting everyone on the same page is very important. It's a great job.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity.
Yep.
We'll have a couple of coming in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah, just to bring. You know, that one. Just to bring everybody in the loop on that one, maybe people have heard, but there's a potential for a energy storage facility. $2 billion investment by hydro store backed by Goldman Sachs. They're looking at one site, it's kind of broken.
Where? Location where?
One site's in the town of Krogan, need to be along Bond Road. And the other one is in Watson, Tower Road. So they haven't decided which site yet. But it's looking quite likely, and they will be seeking a pilot, so. If you think about the investment, this tax revenue, the potential to keep the IDA sustainable for a large number of years based on 1% fee, 20 million. So I think that's gonna be a really good conversation for the sport to have, what do we actually need and what can we get into box, so that when people yell at us for needing money, somebody has it. But a great potential, and I think working. Our role will be the financial side of it, right? So the towns and to some extent the state will have jurisdiction over siting and environmental and that stuff. We'll help where we can, so that it's the most of the opportunity for our communities.
700 temporary jobs and 40 full-time permanents.
Yeah, so the question is knocked out for me too, that I'm discussing the town program Monday. So 700 jobs over 5 years and $2 billion investment. Can they break that up for us? What are the phases of those 700 jobs? You know, what construction phases? So maybe we can get contractors ready. And then there's 4 permanent positions. What are those positions? What are the training requirements? Could JCC Center start leveraging some of the resources and training youth to get ready for those permanent positions?
One of the only concerns I have is that they're temporary, are they local residents or are they bringing teams here?
That's, yeah.
It's gonna be a-
What's the quality of people coming?
Yeah. Right, and they won't all be.
But that's no different than
What's
these other districts, I mean. And, you know, we always see that with the solar and wind, like even with. Our sales tax abatement, right, it's only what they buy here locally, which is usually still in gravel. You know, some
Right.
local supplies that like.
It sounds like a great number, but and I guess temporary housing it would be very helpful, but that's a double edged
Oh,
sword.
it's all-
We have the shortage, but.
I think, you know, and just one last comment, because I think. Been having some discussions about like the energy stuff and these sort of projects, and you know, I look at it as this county has always exported its natural resources. Paper, milk, whatever, like and we talk a lot about those industries, you know, changed over the years, so how do we sustain our economy, right, with. And these are the new industries that are still, so this idea of like, well, we're sending electricity downstate and stuff, well, who cares, we've always sent our natural resources out here, that's what drives our economy. And as long as we do it in a sustainable way, there's it's no different than out when I had other papers, right? It's the same things, but I think we need to stay ahead of that narrative as well.
Say no.
Okay. Anything else on the report? Okay, here's the community bank.
Alright, this was updated last night, so news for you. The. We're fine.
Yeah. I was looking at it last night too, what time did you update?
Okay. So we have an accepted purchase order, correct me if I'm wrong. Candace, the appraised value, so now we have 30 days to schedule an inspection, and if the repairs needed don't exceed 3,000. We're good. So. Kaylee was also getting communications late last night as I brain dumped on. How we frame the narrative around purchasing the bank, which I think is just. It's a huge win on all fronts. We were very involved in conversations and community members were very active. Trying to get another bank to use that building. Northern designs and things with no brick and mortar presence. We let it go to the private sector to be marketed. It was, in my opinion, overpriced, according to our appraisal, overpriced, so it sat there for almost 2 years. We had active community members, board people, brought it back to our attention. We took another look, we had the appraisal in the end, so we could move as quickly as we needed to. And if you guys have been in our conference room in our office, where we did our strategic planning, there's a sticky up there that says, maintain or. What's it say?
Which one?
It's in a Teams now, Trish, or the Keely last night. It's in true. That's the Teams. Preserve community assets, basically. So it was, as we apply these projects that come to us through a filter of does this meet our strategic plan, it does, it's preserving a community asset. So we can step in, we can either resell it at a realistic price to somebody who can use it, or we can lease it to just make sure that that building. So kudos to this board. That project.
Thank you. It's a big
Sure.
win.
Are you anticipating any repairs needed, or are you aware of any?
We're not aware of any books. It's small, I mean, it's just over the square feet. So it does, much to Goggins' dismay, probably, it does say that the bank can remove the deposit boxes and other type equipment, so.
If they remove, cause I mean,
They could.
so if they remove that, are they gonna repair the building?
Probably would have to.
So I mean, they're gonna have to cut a wall.
I don't think
Get
they
better
will,
out.
I think if they wanted it, they would have taken that one.
Right.
Is the state still in the sub-traffic building? Is the vault still in the sub-traffic building?
Yes, I assume it is. Yes,
I'm pretty sure I've seen that door before, yeah.
Storage one is still in keeping.
I don't know how they would get in that. You'd have to tear a wall out. Like a. Yeah. It's one of
Yeah,
the
it's not very
floors.
big, so at that point,
Chair.
Yeah, the exterior.
Yeah. Yeah, by outsourcing it, it just provides way more flexibility for somebody to actually use that, so. It'll be very cool, and we did put that line item in our budget for just property maintenance. Just in case.
great.
We should probably, I think the last approval was. Approvals put in an offer. We should probably approve this, right?
Yeah, sign that.
Right, so we have 30 days to complete an inspection, and then the closing would be 20 days, within 20 days of that, so we have a potential. I think resolution to.
I would say, let's, if you guys are good with it, you can. Have an approval contingent upon inspection.
It won't be very atlas, but it's to represent community. I think you're fine, because you don't represent them and. Rooms. Right, right, you're not really an in-house counsel right now. I represent Community Bank, but I've never handled the Harrisville Bank branch, and I don't represent them, I'm not an attorney for them, I'm just an attorney that handles closings for them.
We can know that.
Do we need to get quotes from inspection agencies?
It's not that much money, they're not worth $500 usually.
The part of the commercial. With the higher.
The appraisal might be more, but not.
What ticket is it on?
Pretty good.
I think we're already generating that. Easy.
Motion to approve the offers purchase for 50,000 contingent upon. Inspection. Successful inspection.
I'll make that motion. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Cool. All right, BRBN, conversation continued. So we've been talking with James about potential for installment sale on equipment. At the last board meeting, we talked about kind of two options of purchasing this new yogurt filler that would help with his efficiency, but it wouldn't provide him, like it's us purchasing that equipment for his efficiency. The second option was purchasing BRBN owned equipment and then leasing it back to him. So he was able to provide quote for the sealer, and he kind of identified some of the larger pieces of equipment that he currently owns. And those quotes were quoted just on those general pieces of equipment from this equipment company. It wasn't them coming to his location to inspect that equipment. We tried to, like, I talked with Tyler McDonald of Paramedic Assets, to see if he would appraise the equipment for us, and he would, because restaurant and food processing equipment is just so like fluid. There's so much of it on the market that it's hard to appraise. So that's where we're at. The LCBC later is going to be reviewing his loan application for $50,000. So at this point, he's in the process of receiving his $100,000 loan from North Country Alliance, so potentially $50,000 from the LCDC, and then this could be another opportunity for us. Obviously, the yogurt filler is less risky for us. But we discussed that purchasing some of his smart equipment might be helpful for him in consolidating some of his stuff. So just wanted to put that in front of you all and see where you're at. If you would prefer.
My rate in assuming that the certified refurbished builder is under some sort of warranty.
I think so, yeah. Like it's definitely not, like he's just purchasing it from another business. I can check on that though. Sure. He indicated that a new yogurt filler was around 80,000.
I know that's a big difference, but with my family being in the restaurant business, everything they buy used, and it's a big headache and more expensive than buying it.
Yeah, it can cost, it could cost way more than 30,000 over the course of 5 years. It's pretty nothing but issues.
And we can't find anyone to service them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, us purchasing his own equipment, I mean, that's certainly very risky. Costs as well. Um,
How urgent is this decision?
I mean,
What I'm thinking is maybe next month meeting, we have more lines in the room, we can talk about it, if we table it for now.
we indicated to him that this is not a quick process, like this is not a short-term solution for you. So. I don't know, my gut was still kind of going with the yogurt filler, because by the time this happens, hopefully he's a little bit further ahead with some of the loan funds he's getting. What do you think? What's your gut?
I mean, either way, he needs to follow the process and submit an application for this specific ask.
We're back to the idea of owning assets that have a very limited function.
Yes.
Yeah.
This goes through, now we're stuck back with the broken equipment.
Right, what's more easily resellable, a cream separator or a yogurt
I've been looking for one.
Yeah, exactly. You really wanted one of those, right?
Yeah, this is our attorney. What do you think?
I would go with a newer yogurt filler with sealer. I wouldn't wanna buy his equipment and then have him buy it back from us, that seems, and 4 pieces versus 1. I don't like it.
Nah, I would definitely. think that, I think we should go for it.
Right.
Instead, I know it's $30,000 more, but it's less headaches.
Could we get some more information on like how old this one is and maybe some depreciation figures? Like, do you have to recalibrate it, it's already sealed one type of cup, how hard is it, and so we're seeing wasted product too. Used.
And yeah, and you know, where's the nearest tech that services those things?
That's the problem we've always run into is. Then it wouldn't work.
Yeah, focus and it's kind of helpful for this.
You heard that mention something about a warranty for the certified refurbished, right? Compare that to what a warranty would be on. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a specifically a yogurt filler, kind of like handle any other products.
Refresh my memory, why are we talking about buying the equipment first, knowing the funds and then taking a security interest on the equipment?
So the IDA, the loan funds have transitioned to the LCDC, so we are providing a loan through the LCDC. Or considering it today. Yeah, the IDA can't do that as funds purchase.
And is the yogurt, I mean. But. Is it gonna create inefficiency or is it gonna? Is it not ultimately? Is it gonna fill the yogurt and then just have the cheese sitting there?
Lever seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it does create efficiencies and it also increases shelf life of the yogurt.
Yeah, because right now they are hand sealing the yogurt, and that would eliminate that labor cost.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna do this, we have to do new, because we're talking about us eventually inheriting this item. We hopefully not. That'd be good.
Okay, so I will get more information on a brand new filler. I'll look into the warranty versus with the used versus the new. And let him know that this is where this was headed.
It's 50% more, but it's an insurance policy.
Would you be open to a deferred payment on that, like if we were to purchase and maybe potentially deferring that payment if we needed it?
I think it's gonna be a couple more months before he gets.
Maybe get a deferment for 6 months and then revisit.
Yeah.
And see, you know, how much money is it saving you, is it really working?
Right, and I think maybe because the sport is pushing for the new equipment rather than the old one, we maybe offset that increased payment with a lower interest rate. I can run the amortization stacks together and see how much adjustment we would need to make.
This organization is so rad. I just honestly, as a person who has struggled a lot, to know that this exists for businesses to help them, it's really awesome. Be part of it. That's all, I'm sorry.
That's awesome, you're part of that, Trish.
I'm sitting here like, why? No, but not me, but I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good thing. It really is, I'm really impressed with it. It's awesome.
Any other questions? Cool. Okay, next is the Hamilton County IDA housing example. So this was a conversation from our last board meeting, we had talked about housing and what can IDAs do more of, rather than just providing pilots. So we are friends with Hamilton County IDA. You know, Hamilton County, they're in the Adirondacks, they're the smallest county population wise, they have about 5,000 residents. And a big workforce housing issue, so they have restaurants and tourism, you know, ski resorts, and of course their county government too, and they have a hard time finding people to come work there because there isn't housing. So a way that their IDA was able to participate in housing, I'm not gonna read through the whole thing, hopefully you guys have read through it, but essentially they were able to purchase tiny home cabins, to which they did like a lease back scenario with Oak Mountain Ski Resort. And they are temporary 6-month workforce housing options. So for example, she said that they wouldn't have been able to get their director of public health if it were not for this housing. So they move there, they're there in these little homes for 6 months until in the meantime, they are finding permanent residences. So it's, yeah, the IDA purchased these homes and they're, I don't know if you can click on the Lancaster one here, please. They're just cute.
Like breezy home.
Yeah. So again, the workforce housing is a need that's not in Hamilton County. You know, we could certainly consider something like this if the IDA wanted to get more involved. I see like maybe it's assisting the hospital with some of their workforce. So I just wanted to share an example of another IDA and how they've been involved creatively with housing. Outside of just in a big apartment complex, big development.
And something I thought about too, when I read this is, you know, so let's say Hydro Store does come to fruition and those 700 jobs, you know, just a portion of it is local. Projectors, could we leverage something like this? To help them keep their employees in Lewis County while they're working on the project,
Yeah.
which they spend their money in Lewis County.
Yeah.
So.
There are, my husband works up on the windmill side, where I work, and every summer, they have contractors coming in, crane people, blade people, they're here all summer long, and if you have such a hard time finding a place to stay, they don't have to stay in a hotel, they wanna bring their families.
Smart has picked up pretty much every Airbnb in the county, Louisiana,
Yeah.
some guys are traveling South Utica to stay in a hotel. Yeah. This might be a better solution. Yeah. Other question here.
Candace, her brain is.
Would there be a way where you could get to these? Like not Airbnb or just like landlords, to have them on a list to say, okay, I know you don't wanna rent to TLS or DSS people. these projects are coming in, can we have you on a list to have your place open? Like, there are obviously people who have to report, they'll get in trouble if they do stuff bad. Like, maybe that's something where you get some of these landlords that are refusing to rent because of the issues with evictions and everything like that. Aside to this, because I think that's a really good idea as well, you just have to find someone who has the land and septic and electricity and all that good stuff for these. But it just in my brain, because I know that they had a talk with landlords at the county level about how to open some of these places again, and that's their biggest problem. Which I don't, right, and I don't disagree with them, but these people would have an end date.
Yeah.
And you could have the lease determinable upon their employment with this company, or the company rents it, I guess. It's not, it doesn't matter, the end part doesn't matter, but just a thought is to have kind of maybe these landlords start to open back up their houses.
Guaranteed payment.
Yeah,
It's a very nice option. Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, and with this situation, I mean, we would certainly need to have a partner in this, like, you know, she had said the rents go directly over them to run that. So our stake would be in purchasing them, that's it, really. And maybe.
You said there's been questions and concerns about getting into the housing projects that we aren't supposed to, not allowed. Have they been audited and then any feedback from the state on?
Like, when she first told me about it, I was like, how are you doing this? But,
It's an inset,
yeah,
and it's, if you kept them mobile, so you're not gonna attach them,
Right.
and you keep them mobile more like that bottom one.
They're just trailers.
Right, they're just trailers,
I think
all
that's a key.
mobile, so it's technically an asset that you can move, it's not permanent fixture on the land. So I don't think you'll get in trouble for it being on a house.
they are classified as RVs, you call them tiny homes to get around zoning.
But I agree, it's very tricky with the wording, because it
It's
is,
created.
yes.
It's creative. But again, I mean, it's such
Right, but they're not also involved in renting, they're not involved in leases, they're not involved in collecting anything, it's just like, here's an asset and we're doing a lease. Yeah, and you just really hope that whoever's doing it is responsible and doesn't not involved in anything.
Back in that same discussion about infrastructure.
Right.
The land, the development, water, sewer.
But that's gonna have to be on the person. I would tell the ID not to when don't get involved in that, because they're gonna be fighting with the town board about it and neighbors and whoever.
So maybe the appropriate thing to do from here is like not the list of partners. Of exactly the partners, starting developers, yeah.
maybe the hospital.
You could put it on that land on the top.
Right.
Ground, countryside, they all bring people running through, outside the area.
Yeah, that's a lot of property. Right here is not supplying these folks.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll start thinking about partners and just putting the idea out there. Keep you updated. Right, site development updates.
Okay. This is a property that was brought to our attention, I'm not sure if I've talked to this board about it much. It's currently listed along Route 12 right here in Lyons Falls. Got the edge over here. And this is 12D right here, McAlpine Street. It was brought to our attention from a few different people that it's listed. The total lot is quite large. It's actually 3 lots. Right here down by Route 12 is a pretty steep slope, as you can see from the topography lines on the map. But then there's this parcel and this parcel as well. So I started looking into it as a potential for a park property. The village owns this lot right here. They've got their water facility right there. And the methodology I was using was like, let's figure out where the utilities are. Let's figure out if this is a viable lot to even consider this on. And you can't see the legend very well, but you've got utility infrastructure. This is a power line here. Transmission line. There is access here, because when I was first brought to my attention, I was like, we're not building a road up that slope for tractor trailers, that's not happening. But there is access off 12D here. The snowmobile trail does cut across the property, but that can be rerouted, obviously. And this portion right here is within the village, so there is the ability to, I'm setting up a meeting with the mayor to kind of see their appetite for this project. But there is water right there. And talk about sewer service. I've had this map for a couple weeks to try to kind of see in terms of topography, what it was looking like. Obviously, it looks like there's some slopes in there. And we've got just a little stream that cuts across over there. So initial first swipe is like, maybe. Click on the other link. Actually, kind of. No, and the updates. That was tricky. Yeah. So I had Lauren over in county planning run this one for me. To be a little even more clear. And we found the natural gas line goes right through the property, which is super convenient. And the slopes are a little bit better identified. So ideally you want slopes to be under 10% for developing commerce and industrial type activity. You could go into the 10% range, but you definitely don't want to get up into 15 without having to move a lot of earth. So the darker pink that you see is the 15%, the lighter pink is 10%, and then everything else is relatively flat. Obviously you can't build directly under the transmission line unless Jerry really wants to pull some strings for us, so that limits where we can build a bit. But there is about 30, maybe 35 acres in here that could be a potential Commerce Park property. The owner is willing to subdivide, so that's nice. Part of the conversation I would have with the village of Lyons Falls is, would they annex what would probably be a lot that would look more like this to all be in the village, so we're not dealing with multiple municipalities. Yeah, so I wanted to bring this board up to speed on that. And we haven't really discussed Commerce Park in depth with this board in a long time. It's something that the county would very, very much like us to be looking at, and we did include the idea in our strategic plan and Neptune Lewis that we would look in this direction a bit. These things never happen overnight because they take a lot of money. But that's where I'm at right now. We could move forward with an option to purchase the property just to hold it so that we could do our due diligence. And that would give us some time to do that and really flesh out a plan and find out how willing the village of Lyons Falls is to work with us. We've done a lot of work in Lyons Falls across organizations between the mill site, BRBN on the mill site, the school, which is primarily county right now, but we will be involved in marketing the school again. We've spent a lot of time in Lyons Falls, so while this is positioned nicely for Lewis County standards on a shipping route, we do have to decide if we want to allocate more resources to that area versus Denmark, who's like begging us to develop. That's nice.
Steve, what's for transmission lines? If we have that transmission line going right through?
The right of way is 150 feet right center. Into the gas pipe is Iroquois transmission. 300 aside, probably another 150. Plus highly restrictive land use and construction. Like nothing over top of the pipe, and then you're not supposed to have any tamping, heavy machinery within X amount of feet. I don't know how we're putting it there, but our transmission pipe is something like 100 feet.
So that would give us,
It's not gas main, you're not.
It's looking at the slopes, it's drainage.
right, all that.
You know, you're gonna have a huge drainage pond there.
Well, I don't think I have very good cell phone service in that area. So when I'm down at Community Bank in Lions Falls, there's no signal at all.
Right,
So I'd be a little nervous about how internet and cell phone and all that would be down there.
again, this was land that was brought to us, so, doing our due diligence to research, thank you, Shai, for researching that. But that's good to know with the gas line and transmission line, that really eliminates a lot of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
from an electric infrastructure perspective, it's good to have a transmission line there for service, but you're not gonna get gas service from that point.
Okay.
Without building a regulator station for probably about.
Yes, Denmark, I did meet with them through their comp plan process, and we're very Scott wants industry. Do you have any land ideas in mind? Like my thought would be it would have to come like water connect from West Carthage, so like,
Which we're already working on,
cool.
right? So that's being discussed already.
So it's, who are the landowners that we can be talking to? And knowing that it's not gonna be road front, because there's nothing road front, it'd have to be set back.
Besides my family. Marx's family would be the biggest owners of land in Denmark.
That's it.
Focus on farm.
So. Well, just think about that, if there's anyone that you know that might be willing to have a conversation. In partnership with us, in partnership with the town.
He has a lot of land on 26 now. What about he's what's Jeff Woods?
I'm thinking of water as well, like if we're coming from West Carthage. We would wanna get as close to the county line.
The district side.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, I've been looking at the map, the parcels and who owns them, but any local insight we have to. Besides just local collective ones and so small. That'd be great.
oh, you got for a minute, I'm gonna bump my eyes.
Oh, yeah.
With those
Okay.
lots still for sale on River Forks Road?
There were a whole bunch of lots there for a long time. And last time I drove out there, they still had that old Lake Ontario real estate sign with the lots on it.
Close.
And they do have 3-phase power going right through the middle of some of the lots.
Yeah, I was thinking 26 to Carthage, but you're right,
Yeah,
that's
but
like.
Lindbergh, yeah, Lindbergh already has water.
Sounds like
Yes.
it's got 3 phases, it's got water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's it.
Okay,
Denmark
so
would be great, that too, but Denmark would be great because it is right next to the county line, you're gonna pull from Carthage and in Watertown.
Close to a main state highway would be great.
So are we back to the the Lawrence Falls property for a second. Is this board, are we anywhere near, being ready to say, go ahead with an option purchase?
I think there's too many restrictions on this one.
I don't think it's right, too.
Dealing with those boards could be less than advantageous too, but. But yeah, no, I think the right of way issues are just too significant.
Yeah, I'll continue to, I'll block them out, kind of like we did the slopes to see what that leads in terms of,
You know, I think that's really helpful.
we'll keep doing our due diligence, but,
Yeah, and like, not only the right of ways, but like I said, with the drainage and.
Yeah.
Retaining pond, I mean, that's gonna take up a lot of space there. Gets all the slopes around it.
I think there's also a sub-transmission line that goes west to east into the building. Looks like 3 days, but it's,
Yeah, it's 34 by
23.
this is mapped out as a transmission line down there, Jerry, I don't know.
That goes from our tap between 12 and 26 to Lionsdale. From Burroughs and what used to be Lionsdale Energy.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, keep looking.
What about Jeff Hollinger's land here? I know he wants a lot of money for it. It's right above the hospital.
No one categorized Lago as supportive or better, yeah. I'd rather,
A lot of money for it.
What did we determine, so we had a property and site development committee under Natalie Lewis, we identified 3 sites that we're looking at. And the conversation was focused on a smaller site, like multiple smaller sites, rather than the large, huge commerce park. Denmark was 1, this site was 2, what's the third? 3. And thinking about the communities that are receptive and your infrastructure.
Have you approached J.D. Ross? Because that property was under consideration years ago, but Father John said, not until I'm dead.
Yes, but again, it's lava. So.
yeah. We will continue looking, and this is a long-term project, it's not an overnight project, so. If we can keep that narrative from escalating, but it should be done tomorrow. It requires due diligence. We're gonna do that.
My presence having update. McBraz currently is going through site plan approval with the town of Lionsdale for the last 2 years, and really isn't getting anywhere. The town isn't following their own laws, and it's just like I emailed them yesterday. And he indicated that just did the development contract with the town, paid them to sign, pay for, and engineering, like those costs are up close to $90,000. So his, like, just the time is costing him more money. I think his project should be on the agenda. Do they plan to approve it or review it? Like, what's your insight?
I haven't heard back from Jim. I called him, left him a message again. And based on my last conversation with him, they were going to approve it.
Yeah.
They just wanted to make sure that all the environmental requirements were going to be met. But obviously since then, one of the board members has maybe crazy and bumped their head. And it sounds like they're gonna try to deny it. and then make them restart, which doesn't make any sense to me. I think they'd be opening themselves up to a whopping lawsuit if they did that. But I haven't heard back from them yet.
Yeah. So from the IDA perspective, I mean, we sold the land to Nigres and.
Under the assumption that this was going to go through.
Yes.
I mean, there was a pre-planning meeting, like feelers were out.
Yeah.
I thought really bad for this guy.
Is there any aspect of this for like assist with legal fees for him?
That's a slippery slope.
I will say, he hired an attorney from Rochester. And around the time that the town was trying to pass a moratorium on all industrial and commercial development, he brought his attorney up and.
I was watching Jessica's face, so now I know what mine looks like.
Yeah. And he was throwing out moratorium law left and right, and he. Like, I think that was the only time that this board was shut down, was when Rez brought his attorney. So I said to him, every single meeting that you have with them, you need to have an attorney, your attorney present, and I know that that costs money. So. Yeah, I don't know if, again, it's a slippery slope with how to sustain. For paying for that, but that was the only thing that.
Help with legal fees, I don't think we.
Isn't there a time frame they have to make a decision within a completed application? I think they're gonna have to bring,
There are, maybe we should put that in the executive session. I don't know how much. Should be a part of the public record at this time.
Yeah, we can certainly go into executive session
I don't know.
for attorney client.
For closed sessions, sure.
Make a motion.
For attorney problems.
All in favor?
Aye.
What time is it?
I think it's 7.
Yeah, so mine's.
No,
6:30.
6?
Oh. I was trying to find out, internet.
Yeah,
No,
Okay, anything else for the agenda? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Everybody moves.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
We do everyone
at 6.
Trying.
Everyone?